Hi, my name is Mariah Blackbird, and this is the 9 Questions podcast.
Hello, welcome to 9 Questions, the podcast where we get to know someone through 9 questions. This week, we have on Mariah Blackbird. Mariah, how's it going?
It's going great. Thank you for having me, Kevin.
I'm happy to have you here. So, Mariah, I've known you for a little while now, and I just feel like you have such an interesting story, and I just want to get to know you. So let's just get started with the first question of the 9 questions. Where did it all begin for you? Where did you come from?
So I am originally from the Cheyenne River Sioux Indian Reservation. I'm Lakota from South Dakota, and that is one of the 9 tribes of the Lakota Nation in South Dakota, but I am currently living in Phoenix, Arizona because I go to ASU San Jose O'Connor College of Law.
Okay. Did you go to ASU for undergrad too?
No, so I actually went to a community college. It's called Oglala Lakota College. It's a very tiny community college in my hometown, Igleviet, South Dakota, which is very small. Mm-hmm. You can look it up if you want. It's like right in the middle of the reservation. But I went there, and after I graduated high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was thinking maybe military. I didn't want to go to school right away. So I took a year off, and I went and worked in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, lived with my aunt and everything. And then I decided I want to go back to school. I didn't know where I wanted to go. I was in between, going to community college or going to Black Hills State or even Haskell in Kansas. And I decided I just wanted to start from home. And while I was in college, I started in 2012. I worked as a teacher for teaching 3rd through 7th grade of Lakota language and culture in our school system, the school system I graduated from, Cheyenne River school system. And I worked all through undergrad, and I graduated top of my class. There's like 9 colleges, and I graduated top of all of them.
Oh.
And then I was applying for law school. Uh-huh. Originally did not apply to ASU. Okay. I actually applied and got into Boulder, Colorado, and I was supposed to go in 2017. Okay. I had first went to PLSI, the Pre-Law Institute in Albuquerque for Native Americans in 2017, and that is where my life changed. I got to know so many friends, Brian Garcia, Verlani Ogamoro, Janet Bill, all of them. We just, 26 of us Native American Indian 2B law students became a family, and, we had profound professors in that program, like Professor Rebecca Sosi, and all our Professor Paley, our contracts professor, and Professor Gomez, our property professor. And I originally did not think about ASU, but after I got to know my friends and they were all going to ASU, I decided to wait a year. Yeah, I waited a year, and so I actually just pulled my admission into Colorado, and they were pretty pissed at me, got a pretty nasty email, but I thought it was the right decision. And, I took my LSAT again just to see if I could, hire it again. And, was living in Durango, Colorado for a while, just kind of hiking around. And then I got into ASU, and, it was like the best call of my life. And, the call actually from Dean Sylvester was, he called me and he was like, "This is ASU Dean," and I was like, "Shut up, no it isn't." I almost hung up, and it was so funny, but he was just had to convince me for 2 minutes that it was him and that I actually got in on a pretty substantial scholarship.
That's good.
It was awesome.
That's really okay. So you were down in New Mexico with other Native Americans, and then that's what led to ASU. So you said you grew up on a reservation?
Yeah. So I am from the Cheyenne River Indian Reservation in South Dakota. So it's directly below Standing Rock. It's like the biggest res in the middle of South Dakota. So it's probably about 45 minutes north of Pierce, South Dakota, 3 hours east of Rapid City, and about 6 hours west of Sioux Falls. So it's pretty much in the middle of South Dakota. My backyard is literally the Missouri River. Okay. And my family, my mom and dad, had a ranch out there with horses, and that's where I grew up. That was my home. And my highway, my street is literally Highway 212.
Okay. Is it only your tribe on that reservation, or are there other tribes, sister tribes or something?
So one reservation is one tribe.
Okay.
But in South Dakota, okay, well, we'll start. So around the whole U.S., there's like 370 something tribes, like federally recognized tribes, and you have the tribes who are not recognized. But in South Dakota, there are 9 tribes: Standing Rock, Cheyenne River, Flandreau, Yankton, Crow Creek, Laura Brule, Sisseton. Then Sisseton, and then we have Rosebud, Pine Ridge, and Cheyenne River. So those are the 9, but they're sister tribes, which are a bigger part of what they call the Sioux Nation. But, you ask any Lakota, Dakota, Nakota, we don't like being called Sioux. That means snake in the grass, so we don't like to be called that.
Okay,
so
we will not call you Sioux here.
So I always say, like, I am Lakota. From Cheyenne River. So.
Okay, so you being from South Dakota, is Dakota because with you being called Lakota, is there like a tribe that's the Dakotas, or why was?
So Dakota is a different dialect in which the Sioux, like the Sioux Nation, we'll call it, speak. So there are 3 dialects. There are Lakota, which is my dialect. When you speak your language, you speak with the L. The Dakota, the D dialect, you speak with the D. And the N dialect, you speak with the N. So, like, for example, if we were to say butterfly, my language would be Kimimila. But if I was Dakota, it would be Kimimida. And if it was Nakota, it would be Kimimina. So that traditionally identifies you as to which tribe and which band you belong to within the Sioux Nation. So, like, when people speak, even though it's substantially similar, the same language, I could tell someone's from, like, Crow Creek or Yankton if they're using a D. And someone could tell I'm from, like, Cheyenne River, Pine Ridge, or Standing Rock if I'm using an L, and the same thing with, like, an N.
Right.
But the Sioux tribes are bigger than just the 9 in South Dakota. They're surrounding, going up into like North Dakota, some parts of Canada, coming over to Minnesota, down Nebraska, Iowa, like all the way around.
Okay. So that is super interesting. That's a lot of information I've never even known. It's a lot. Okay, so you grew up there with all the different Sioux, use air quotes, Sioux tribes. And then you said you went on to New Mexico. Now that you're like at ASU and you're seeing non-Native Americans, obviously growing up, is there any like major differences in how you grew up to like how you see people now when you're like just out here in the general population?
Oh yeah, I mean, on my res there's not only Native Americans.
Okay.
There's, there were our share of white people. Like half our res is white. Like half our town is like we're divided by like white part of town and native part of town. So I think it's like that on every reservation. And my reservation is checkerboarded, which is from the General Allotment Act. Basically, like gave parts of our land bases to different non-natives, and they were able to come in and buy. Okay. So my reservation is heavily white, but being in like the general population at ASU, I will say I am very far from home. It's very different. The first thing I did when I came to ASU, honestly, was I made sure, of course, I had my community here with like Merlani Bryan, my PLSI class that graduated this past year, and I established a community within my own class to make sure I had people and a family. And I actually got pretty close with the Salt River tribe, played basketball with them and clerked with them my 1L summer. And, I will say ball is life on every reservation because basketball brings natives together.
Listen, all you need is a hoop and a dream, you know what I'm saying? That's all you need. So your last name is Blackbird.
Yes.
How did your family get that name?
So in Lakota, it said like Zingala Sapa. Originally, my last name is supposed to be Rattling Hail.
Okay.
So the way a lot of Native families got their names were, when they were standing in line to register on the rolls and what now they call like the federal recognition in your ID card and different things like back in the day. The white people would just define it as what role your family was in. or how, your grandma's last name, like my mom's great-great-grandma's last name is Redwater from Crow Creek. And, my grandpa on my dad's side, his last name was Blackbird, like that. But my original grandpa, like, his last name was Rattling Hail. And then you have, people like Crazy Horse or like Sitting Bull and, Kills First Holy, or all these different last names on all these different reservations. I mean, there are some pretty cool ones across the reservations, but, do be aware that on a lot of reservations, there is a lot of, especially in the South, French influence and like Spanish influence, and a lot of the last names on reservations, they're Spanish, or particularly on mine, they're like French or German, different things from like the settlers coming over. So
that's super cool. Okay, so that's enough about your past. Your past. Let's get into the second question. When did you become Mariah Blackbird? When did you become Mariah as like a person?
Okay. I don't know. I feel like, especially being raised traditionally and everything, there are very different, we have 4 stages in life, and when you become, you have your child, your teenage, your adult, and then your old adult life. Okay. And for me, as a child, I lost my dad at 14, and I didn't, I don't really feel like my childhood was a part of becoming other than learning who I was and my culture and my traditions. I was, practicing Christianity with my grandma for the longest time, my grandma ballot meter, and she passed away. And, my dad just pulled us out of the church, and he was like, you're going to learn, our ways now. And my mom, she was very traditional and raised in a traditional family, but, her mom is full German and her dad is full-blooded Indian. So, to be raised in that, and we had a lot of the very traditional ceremonies that we went through and attended every year, going out, picking choke cherries when it was time, or turnips, and, raising horses and establishing that bond with them. And, as a child, I don't feel like there was any substantial point into like becoming other than, becoming grounded in who I am and in my culture. Because nowadays, even at ASU or like in, anywhere I go, not particularly ASU, but anywhere I go, there's a lot of natives who are, you see it on Facebook or something where it's like, they've never been raised on a reservation, never even been to a reservation or like been exposed to it, where there are people who are on the other paradigm where it's like me, I actually lived on the reservation, from the res, straight res girl, and it's like that's who I am. And so I feel like as a child that was the part of becoming, which is the roots of who I am now. Okay. Going back to that. And as a teen, it wasn't, I don't feel like it was huge. I didn't have like a big moment where it was like, I became like this huge basketball star. It wasn't like that at all. Other than, trying to find myself. And, after my dad died, it was really tough on my mom. Right. And, we didn't have like the best relationship and stuff. But, it is what it is. And as an adult, I feel like I'm in the middle of it.
You're finding yourself now.
Yeah.
You're becoming Mariah now.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
And I do think it all hones into like being a child and teen and like where I was raised and everything to who I am now, of course, being grounded. But I don't feel like I've actually become yet.
You're becoming still.
Yeah. So like I'm a 3L this year, and I feel like this year is probably my year where I really take off and,
What's
expand my horizon. So that's a 3rd year law student.
Okay.
So we have 1 L is first year, 2 L is second year, and 3 L's. Yeah.
So this is I think you mentioned actually when you became you said when you were down in Mexico and you found those people and it completely changed course of what you were going to do. I think that's when you became Mariah Blackbird.
I would say that's fair.
Because you then made a decision for you based on you and what you wanted to do, and like you said, you found these people that you wanted to be with and go with. So I think that's, though you're still becoming Mariah, I think that was the jettison to get to.
I would say that was the start of it. Probably not the moment, but the start of it. And it, like becoming what I'm going to become, like be a Indian attorney. It's a long, hard process. It's not only about the people you surround yourself with, but the school you go to. It's, you got to have the background. You got to have the school that has the courses and, the ability to provide that knowledge for you. And I feel like that's what ASU has. So.
Okay.
So it wasn't only the people for me, for ASU, it was also what they could offer
infrastructure.
me. Yeah, the opportunity that they had.
So then that leads us to my third question on this one. What you said you're still becoming you. I want to just ask, what was your moment so far to this point? Because you haven't had your biggest moment, and I'm with that. But what was your moment to point to right now? Touching on what you were saying a minute ago.
I would say my moment thus far, I have no idea, honestly. I would probably say I haven't had that moment yet. The moment that I want to have, which is like graduating and different things like that. But I would say the moment thus far was probably even getting into ASU.
Okay.
Because, like I said, I went to a very small rural community college. And a couple years back, top tier law schools, top tier schools in general weren't letting in community college graduates.
Okay.
The year I got into ASU was the same year that Harvard let in their first community college graduate Native American.
Okay.
So it was a game changer. It's a big game changer. And now, we're a part of this whole initiative of getting community college graduates into law school.
And we're talking about community colleges on reservations, right?
Community colleges everywhere.
Oh, okay.
It's just
interesting.
It's epiphany for me that I'm from a reservation.
Okay.
That was a plus, but because it's not really heard of. Like, I've known other attorneys who graduated from the same college I went to and were not able to get into a top tiered law school. Like, the ASU's top 25, and so I would say that was definitely my moment because it's not heard of. And the way I did it, I took a year off before I even went to college, went to community college, graduated top of my class. It took 2 years off and then came back and started going to law school. But I did not use an LSAT prep course. I taught myself the LSAT off of YouTube.
You're a self-taught LSAT learner.
Yes.
I think that's your moment.
I hated it at first, but I guess, looking back in my whole life, my mom would always say that I would be a little girl going around looking for snacks, and if I didn't, my dad or whoever didn't give me the snacks, and I would bang my fist on the table, and I'd be like, "You're guilty," and then I would just leave. And when I was in high school, one of my professors, Professor Peterson, he exposed me to the doctrine of discovery, and that is when I said I want to be a lawyer. And I always told my mom, I'm going to be a lawyer, and going through whole community college, and when I was studying for my LSAT, and I took months off from working, and I just quit my job, and I was like studying every day from like 8 to 6 at night.
Especially being self-taught, essentially.
Yeah, and taking practice exams again and again and again, and ordering just the stuff off of Amazon, the books, and going to take it. I had a lot of, you're never going to do this because you're from a community college. Like, you just don't have the background. And then when I got it, and I was like, yes. Like, yeah. I got into a higher law school than you did. So don't say nothing to me.
Just crazy. You got into this high-level law school with a community college background and then being self-taught. That's crazy. And just using, like, YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, YouTube's really good. I will say their logical games part was probably the highlight for me. I hated them at first, and I was getting like 0 right on it just because it's such a weird puzzle.
Okay.
And you have to be able to figure out where you're at in the puzzle just by kind of looking at it.
Uh-huh.
And that was my most favorite part on the test at the end of it.
And so you were able to utilize these tests and then continue to develop your skills, and then here you are as an L3 as you law.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's a pretty good moment. That's a pretty good moment to get in there. So then you've named several people throughout this. So my number 4 question for you is, who inspires you the most in your life?
I would say, I actually thought about this for quite a bit these past couple of days. I would say probably the number 1 person is my mom.
Okay.
She grew up, boomer baby and the hard times, and time where older people had kids so they could work the farm, and that's how her childhood was. And she went out and got educated on her own dime and became a nurse and got a bachelor's degree. And that for me, watching her and my dad, because both of them worked at Indian Health Service IHS for years, and they put their money together and they got, they built this empire where it was like, we're gonna get land, okay, we got land, we're gonna get a house, okay, we get all this stuff, we're gonna get horses, and it was just like so cool. It was such a good example. And after he died, it was just like, wow, he left such a good example behind. But I would say definitely my mom, because she's always been the one that was like, I'm behind you, whatever it is you want to do. And, like I said, she was never telling me, she always told me go to school. Right. She never told me go to school to be a doctor, go to school to be this. And when I had went to school, I originally started out in nursing because I wanted to do dermatology. And then I just figured out, like, the only reason I wanted to do that was because she had a medical background.
Right. So you don't necessarily want to do her plan, but you wanted to use her as a focal point so that you can propel yourself to what you want to do.
Because I had thought, honestly, growing up for the res, and me particularly, there's Indian lawyers out there. Cheyenne River's got a lot of lawyers. Okay. Cheyenne River doesn't have the lawyers at home.
Okay,
so I didn't have that role model.
Okay.
I didn't have no one to be like, how do I do the LSAT? What is PLSI? How do I apply for law school? Who do I get to look at my personal statement? What kind of recommendation? I didn't have anybody to lay this out for me. And I guess, when I was deciding that I wanted to change my major, I was kind of scared of that, because I was like, okay, this is literally like a trailblazing thing. Like, I am either all in and I'm going to do it, or it's nothing. Like, you're going to stay in nursing because you really have no resource to figure this out. And I guess for PLSI, for me, it was like this whole array of resources of these people who could get me to where I wanted to go, and, have this family of people who could help me get through what I wanted to do. And that, for me, seeing my mom also not have anybody was what I focused on. Was like, well, she did it. There's not a lot of people who come from the res, get super educated and then, get their bar, get their license or whatever it is, and whatever they do, their degree. I mean, now there is, but, back in that day. So,
there wasn't.
Yeah, for me, it was like, okay, well, she did it, so I can do it.
You're a pioneer, but the pioneership of your mother is kind of what led you down this road.
Yeah.
What made you decide on law, to switch from nursing to law?
There were a few things, honestly, that I had witnessed personally. I was just like, man, that really sucks. Like, there are people like this everywhere, not only in the Native community, but injustice everywhere, and nobody's doing anything about it. And so that was one. Another one was I had my own injustice when I was undergrad, which I probably shouldn't talk about either. But, now I used to be really ashamed of, like, telling people I had went to community college and my path that I had. But now that I see, like, other people, especially, like, the children in my community, when I go home and they're like, oh my God, like, you went to community college. Here you are now, yeah. And I'm like, you can do it. Yeah. And, that was my mom always said was, my own sister would always tease me about, going to community college. I had heard so many times, like, you go to a real school. Community college is not a real school. And I'd always be like, yeah, it is. Like, taking the same classes you are, the professors may not be, like, world profound. But, yeah, that was one thing my mom always told me that will stick with me is, like, community college is a real school.
It is.
And most of the people that had told me that are now in community college.
They were.
I'm just maybe like, but you still get the degree. Like, it doesn't matter to hold it against you. But she always inspired me, and she was always like, yeah, you can do this. No matter what it is, you can do it. And, she always knew it was like a hard charger and, take the bull by the horns regardless of what it was. It was like, I was feeling down and wanted to quit. And she was like, nope, because you didn't come this far just to come this far. And so she would be one person. And I would say, like, other people that have inspired me along the way would be, like, probably, my friends, like, watching so many not only in my PLSI class, but my class now and, the classes before me, all the alumni and the ones coming in, like, they're all such badasses and, working wherever they worked and coming from where they come from. And, the cool thing about it is my friends now, and I look at them and I hear about their stories and hear about where they come from, they all have a reason similar to mine, is a different reason, but similar story, like similar heart-touching background as to why they went to law school and why they're there. And I think that's really inspiring to me, because everybody's got something going on, and everybody wants to, address the system, whether it be like federal Indian law or criminal law or, what have you. It's like everybody wants to do something. So
okay, see, that's super cool. With those people around you really building you up and wanting you to propel along with your mother, that's super cool. I have the next question for you. I know we've talked about all the things that have gotten you here. I want to know how the road could have been different. What's the one moment in your life you wish you could change?
I don't know that looking now, I don't know that I would change it.
Right. I mean, we're happy with where we are now, but what moment?
I think I would change deciding to go to OLC. Okay. Just because, I only had my mom that had went to college. My dad never went to college. He went to, technical college to become like a construction guy, do all that kind of stuff. So he was a builder. Definitely did a lot of that, but I didn't know how big the world was, coming from the res. And, I think it would be the same for a lot of minorities, is we just don't have that exposure. Right. We don't have, these schools that send us to like these crazy airplane places, send us to DC. Now they do. Now they have programs like that. But in my day, we didn't. And, I graduated in 2011. And so I did not know how these college systems worked and, the different exposure and the opportunities that you could have. And I was just kind of like, I just need to get into school. Right. I just need to go. And I did not plan on staying there, but I was comfortable working and, working my job and being around the kids and being able to like inspire them and, show them all this and that. And, that community college is the thing, and that, you can make your dreams come true. And they were there, when I got into law school. Like I had told them that I was going and everything. And so now they're like all graduating in high school, and it's super cool to watch them grow up. But I think I would change, hypothetically, that decision.
So how does that go? What do you do instead? Take me down that. This is all obviously hypothetical. We're very happy where we are now. Yeah. But let's take us down that road of what that looks like.
I think I would go to like a bigger university, like maybe KU, or maybe even Haskell, or even one in like South Dakota, like SDSU or something. I think I would go try it at least.
Do you think you would still end up in law if you did that, or do you think you would be doing something else?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I think if I would have did that, I probably would have ended up being a doctor.
A doctor? Okay, because you would have went down the medical path.
Yeah, I would have went down. Maybe I would have had more resources to be, in getting into law school, or, not having, not as hard as it was for me, trying to do it.
Self-taught.
Yeah.
Imagine if you're like a self-taught doctor on YouTube.
It's a thing. They're out there.
No, I don't want them working on me. That's the bad news. I don't know.
I mean, like they're, MCAT
to get into school, yeah, that's fine. I don't want you like.
But not like a doctor. No, it's like, I definitely want to see your degree hanging on your office wall when I go in.
And they're like, oh no, I like watch a lot of YouTube videos. I think we can do this procedure. I just watched the YouTube video on how to do it.
That's kind of how it was. Like, I was growing up because my mom was a nurse, and I was like her guinea pig, man. Like, she was like always practicing stuff on me. Yeah, like one time I cut my finger, like when I moved in to Phoenix, actually I cut my finger pretty bad right here. And I was like freaking out because there's like blood going all over, and I was trying to cut a ham to make a sandwich or something, and I cut it pretty bad, and it was like open, the bone was showing, and I was like, Mom, we gotta go get stitches. Like, Mom.
So I got it.
And she's like, where's your beading glue? And I was like, my beading glue. And she's like, yeah, get it. And I was like, that is not medical glue. And she's like, it is actually. She's like, I've been an ER nurse for 20 some years. Give me your beading glue. And so she gets it to stop bleeding, and she just pushes it together and puts the glue on it, and it's fine. I was just like, oh my God. I definitely needed stitches though. I didn't get them, but I needed
You
stitches.
definitely needed it. And she's like, here, let's just put some glue on it, then kiss is better.
Yeah, and then she like, the next morning she like rips it off and like reapplies it, and like it's still bone showing. I lost feeling in my entire finger for like 3 months, and I cut the nerve, and she was just like, where is your beading? I was like, okay.
She was a self-taught nurse.
She's self-taught nurse. She had a degree,
Yeah,
but she
still took off YouTube.
She took her traditional knowledge and just used it all the time.
Okay. I'm asking you the next question, all right?
Okay.
Question number 6. What would you leave in a time capsule to let people know Mariah was here on this planet, on here with the people? So if there was a time capsule that we put in there and we pulled it up in 2030 or 2040, or like maybe after you passed, right? What would you have liked to leave so that way people know, oh, that was Mariah Blackbirds?
I would probably leave, like, if not my entire regalia, like my native regalia, but maybe like something I had beaded.
What's the regalia first?
So regalia is what you wear, like what we traditionally wore, like our traditional outfits and stuff, where it was like the buckskin tops and, you know, the leather and all that. But now it's like pretty fancy. It's like jingle dresses, you know. Mine particularly would be like a traditional dress with like an all beaded top or something,
okay,
you know, like that, with like your moccasins, your leggings, your breastplate, like all that different kind of stuff. So I would leave that behind, but you know, if it was like a small box that I only got or something, you know, I don't know how big I could leave something, but I probably would leave probably a signature pair of my beaded earrings that I had beaded. And, you know, if you know that circuit, it's, you know, every single pair of beaded earrings is literally the only pair of that pair in the world that you're gonna have.
Okay.
So it's, you know, people may not, I could probably start putting like my name inside, yeah, whatever, or like marking my initials. I've done that before, like on the inside of the earring, so if you tear it apart you would see who beaded it. But probably that, because I'm sure by the time I die, you know, people will definitely be on the up and up about, you know, social media and be able to look up that was my pair.
They'll figure that out. But
yeah.
With the beaded.
Yeah.
Do you do a lot of beading?
I do a lot of beading, yes.
Okay. How did you get into doing that?
So my dad taught me how to bead. He taught me how to bead. Jeez, I was young. So my dad was very traditional. As kids, we all powwow danced, and I mean us, we all. As me, my brother Ezra, and my sister Sarah. Okay. You know, we were young, raised in Inglewood, South Dakota. Every weekend we would go powwow. You know, go dance, and for us it was fun, but we actually started like becoming huge competitors where it was like we were winning first places at powwow, winning specials,
so like competitions.
You win like cash prizes, yeah.
Okay.
And like horses in different things.
You win different horses were prizes?
Yeah. So like if you win a special for someone, you could win like a blanket, a jacket, trophy, a horse, and money. So like
I like how you threw a horse in there. Like you're like blanket, jacket, horse.
Well, it's like for us it's like so, I don't know, for the Lakota people they're so high priced. Like
here's a couple horses. Boots and a horse.
Yeah. Yeah, here's a gift card to Boot Barn and a horse. Like so it's like it's a very high trophy.
Okay, yeah.
And I personally, when I had my special, I gave my first prize winner got a horse. Okay. One of my horses that her name, we call her Joppy, but her name was like Wojapi, okay. And that means pudding for us, like chokecherry pudding. But I named her that because she was so fast on her feet running in the pasture that when you would ride her, you'd have to be like, whoa, like, whoa, Joppy. And so that's why I named her that. Whoa, but Joppy. She had a colt, and it was a pinto colt. And so, you know, regalia, going back to that beading and stuff, my dad, he always made like wapeshas, which is like your head roaches and stuff for like male dancers out of like porcupine and deer hair, different things. And him and my mom both beaded. And so I had a fully beaded traditional top, which was probably about 30 pounds. It's pretty heavy. And even as a kid, you know, they're very heavy, and, you know, everything we had was all beaded. When we went out, and, you know, my brother's regalia and his feathers, his bustle, you know, everything was beaded. So same with my sister and like her jingle dresses. Those things are probably like 50 pounds. Jeez. And, you know, you dance with those, and it's very sacred and very special, but it's also very fun. So when we were doing it as kids, we were just
having a good time.
And we started winning, and that would be like, we'd put it away, and that would be like our Christmas fund, so we could buy presents or, you know, go do different things in the summer next year or whatever we wanted, and or our birthday money or something. And then I started round beading. My dad taught me how to do that, which is like you bead around a stick. Okay. And that's the first beading I had learned. And then I learned loom beading, which my dad, he made my own loom, which he took like 2x4s and then put like one at the bottom, the base, and then put two up, so they're like horizontal, or is this vertical? I don't know. And then you put nails at the end with like a wire, with like the separators in it, and then you just string it back and forth, and you put the beads like in between the strings, and then you bead a pattern like that. And so that's what I had learned secondly. And then I had learned a freestyle stitch, which is like what I do now, where you like either bead around something or you just freestyle stitch. Yeah, you just do it. And so, you know, we had we had a table, and he would sit at one end and I would sit at the other, and we would just bead into like the early morning hours, like 4 o'clock in the morning all the time. And so that's how I learned to bead, and I actually got really, really good at it now. Okay. And I do have an Instagram page. It's Zinkala _Sape at Instagram. Yeah.
We'll be able to shout that out at the end, because that's dope. That's super dope, and it's something that's not only you, but there's only few people that can do it, right? Yeah. I don't even know what it was. You just explained all of it to me. I didn't even know what that was. So it's definitely something that's definitely unique to you. So in this time capsule, we're going to be able to put your full regalia. That's for the plates. We're going to go ahead and make it a 2XL capsule, and we'll drop your whole regalia in there. Okay. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit more macro. Okay, I want to talk about what you think about the world. All right. Question number 7 in our 9 questions is, what mark do you want to leave on this world when you leave it? So, like, what do you want people to say about you in the end?
I think in the end, what I'm really striving for is I want to help people. Okay. Being an attorney is a service, and that is probably one of the biggest reasons why I had went initially to law school. Okay. Was even now, being in Phoenix and being exposed to like all these different things, having a Walmart or, just a McDonald's or whatever right there. It's so different. And I go home and it just makes me cry, because they're so poverty stricken, and I don't know how to fix it yet. Right. I'm working on it.
I like that you said yet, because it's something that you could definitely strive to want to do.
And, I think at the end, eventually later in life, whatever happens, I want to go back and I want to help my community. I don't necessarily have to go back there, but I would like to see them, economically develop my tribe and all the other tribes, or just whatever tribe I can help. I would like to see them further themselves and economically develop, and help them in any way I can, whether that mean contracting in like better education, better healthcare, better everything and anything that I can get them. And I think I would like to leave that mark, is that she was a res girl, and she did everything from the bottom, and she rose to the top, but she didn't do it to stay at the top. Right. She came back and she helped her community, and she, not only did good for her community, but she showed other people that they could do it too. Okay. So kind of being a role model
Right.
You know, like and you know, like I said, like when I was going through this process and doing it, I didn't have anybody I could turn to and be like, you know, how do I do this or how do I do that? It was just all a trial and error. Either you get it or you don't.
Right.
And so I think I would, you know, definitely like to be that for younger generations and younger kids, not only to do what I did, but to aim higher than what I did. Okay. To aim for Ivy League, aim for university right off the bat, you know, aim for Millennium Gate Scholar, aim for that full ride, you know, aim to be president or to be chairman, whatever it is.
Just shoot for the stars.
Yeah.
Shoot for the moon, yeah.
Don't, you know, I only opened the door for that. You know, that was my role in all this, was opening the door, but other people, you know, that door's open now. So
I opened it.
Aim higher than aim higher, climb that mountain. And so I think, you know, that would be something that I would like to leave behind and be remembered by.
So you mentioned the impoverished, if you will. That perfectly leads to our 8th question, which is, what's the one thing you think we should know as the human race that we need to like fix?
So I was like thinking about this question earlier, and I was just like, human race, like we, who's we? Like are we like aliens, or so are we talking about
if we were to have if an alien race were to come, what is the one thing that they should know? Like if they took Mariah and said, tell me about this. What can we fix? They're here to help.
I probably would start with honesty. And humanity. There's a lot I would start with, honestly, but I would probably start with truth and honesty, because, you know, this, not to be any kind of bias, but I feel like I can't be because I'm Native American, but you know, this country, I really feel, is kind of built on lies and built on not really lies, but dishonesty and being, you know, putting everything under the table, like
pushing everything under the rug.
We did that, but we're not going to apologize, and we're just going to move on.
I think that's more than just here. I think that's everywhere.
Yeah. I
think there's corruption, if you will, everywhere, but there's, like you said, dishonesty and mistrust everywhere. So I agree.
And I think I would start there and coming into the humanity side, you know, I would think that these aliens or whoever's, you know, coming after us, Jupiter or whatever, I would think they'd be coming after us because, you know, globally, you know, if you take a look at like how we're handling this pandemic, not everybody, but specifically, I think our president, you know, could have been handled a lot better. And there could have been a lot of things that were put in place, you know, even when it started, they're probably coming after us because we're fucking it up.
They're coming to fix it.
And they're coming, because we've
been watching this coronavirus, y'all.
You're such a disappointment to this universe. I would, you know, beg to be like, but we're, you know, please, you know, yeah.
Some of us though are cool.
Yeah, so some of us are cool, but please, you know, take pity on us, because, you know, it's humanity and not everybody has that. Like, yes, you know, there are those out there who are not very level-headed and not very, you know, have their own ideas and everything, but when you come to the root of it, like even looking at Black Lives Matter, or, you know, when you go back to like No Dapple, there's a certain unity that people have, and I think, you know, that would be something that we would need to remember, but it would start with truth. Being honest about everything, what had happened, and being transparent about how it affected people then and how it has a lasting effect on them now.
I mean, I think, like you said, honesty would be very important, and there's corruption, like I said, everywhere. So it would be definitely something that they should know, that, listen, we can't really be honest with each other down there. So it would be, if you could help, that we'd appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Mariah, I have one last question for you. This is a big one. What do you want to be when you grow up?
I want to be an attorney. I want to be an attorney.
Right.
Obviously, you know, I have a liking to federal Indian law, but also a wicked twist of tax law. So I want to be a tax attorney for Native Americans. I want to help with their tax issues and, maybe write codes or different types of things, have a universal code or something like that. But essentially, if I had to look at a broader picture of what do I want to be when I grow up, I would say I just want to be happy. Yeah. If you pray, people pray for every day. And one of my friends, Aspen, she asked me this. She asked me every year since I've met her. I met her like May 17th, 2018.
That's very specific.
Yeah. Well, that was like our admitted students day. And, I always tell her because she's very, she doesn't know how badass she is. Like, she's very nervous and, doesn't think she can do things. And I'm like, no, I believed in you since May 18th, 2018. Like, if I can believe in you since then, you can believe yourself for like 10 seconds here. Like, come on now. But yeah, she asked me that, like, what do you pray for in life? And I told her, I used to pray for something specific, whether it be, success in my career, or, my mom to live forever, or, whatever it is. And now I just tell her, after thinking about it and doing some growing up and everything, I honestly just pray for happiness, and that's what I want to be when I grow up, is whatever that looks like. If I'm, barely making it but loving my career, I have a great dog or a great husband or whatever, it's like that's what I overall want to be.
It makes you happy. Do you plan on going back to the res and practicing law back on the reservation, or
not right away?
All right.
I don't feel that I would be able to serve them as I want to serve my community. Because the thing with tribes is they're all different and they're all on different scales of, being successful. And I came to ASU because of the opportunities about, that they had for learning from different tribes and learning from like DC and, on the different scales that my region doesn't have. So I want to go out and I want to learn and have that grounding and have that experience. So when I bring it back, I can really make some real change, because there's definitely things that need to be done and need to be changed, but it's just going to take time and it's going to take experience.
Right.
And that's not going to come if I don't
go out into the world. Yeah, if you go right back.
Yeah.
Have you thought about Congress?
I have, and I won't do it. I am not a politician. I will go out there and campaign for you like a motherfucker, though, but I will not be a politician. I don't like Congress. I don't like politics. I don't like. I will sit at that table. Yeah, it's just too much for me. It's a different playing field, and I feel that's a little bit too far for me for what I want to do. I want to be at home, with these tribes one-on-one and sit at the table with them instead of, sitting at a table in DC, because it's my service is to them. I want to help them, and it starts with them, but I need to hear their voice to know how to help them. So, and I'm not saying that Congress people don't. I'm not saying that, but I'm just, for me personally.
Like you said, you want to be happy ultimately, and you wouldn't be happy trying to help your people from so far away. Yeah. So I definitely understand that.
I want to be right there. Yeah.
Well, Mariah Blackbird, it has been beautiful getting to know you. Thanks for getting through the 9 questions. Is there anything you want to promote, plug? You mentioned your Instagram page that has your beading on it.
Yes. So it's been, first of all, it's been very great being here. And thank you for having me. And this 9 questions, it's very interesting. It's very awesome to talk about stuff like this, knowing that I'm about to go into my 3L year, because it's kind of crazy, because now I'm gonna change into this new person, and hopefully maybe you'll have one hint in 5-10 years, so we can come back and see where all these people are at now. It'd be so cool to look back and look me up on Instagram. I'm at Zingala_Sape, and it's ZINTKALA_SAPE. That is my beading page. Please, no questions about lawyerism. If you want to know how to get into law school, I'm there for you, or beading.
But you're not a practicing lawyer,
but
so
I'm not
you
a practicing lawyer.
Help you with any law questions. So I totally understand that. A friend of mine, she used to say that all the time when she was finishing school. She's like, "Can I help you with legal advice? I am not a lawyer." So
and people ask me all the time, and I'm just like,
"Hey, Mariah, so I had this dog, right? And it fit another dog."
And then they look at you so weird when you're just like, "You should get a lawyer." They're like,
I'm talking to you. That's what I'm talking.
You should get a lawyer, though. I'm not an actual lawyer, not yet. So I'm gonna make me get disbarred before I get barred.
Right.
So, but other than that, yes, thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure. It's been amazing. You could definitely find the podcast on Apple Podcast as well as Spotify, YouTube. We are everywhere. You can follow us on Instagram. You can see pictures of Mariah and you'll see a little blurb. Thank you once again, Mariah. Until next time, bye.
Bye.